You have a list of things to do. Maybe it's been sitting there for days, and you look at it and nothing happens. Not because you don't care, not because you're irresponsible, but because something inside you just shuts down. You stare at the ceiling. You scroll without seeing. Time passes, and you stay completely still. And then comes the worst part, the voice. The one that says, "You're just lazy. You're weak. Something is wrong with you." But here's what that voice doesn't know. What you've been calling laziness has a name. It's called the freeze response. And it is not a character flaw. It is a survival mechanism. And today, I'm going to show you exactly where it comes from, what it does to your body and your mind, and most importantly, how to finally get out of it. Let me paint you a picture. You wake up. You already know what needs to be done today. The email you've been avoiding for 2 weeks. The call you keep postponing. The project that matters. Maybe the one that could actually change things for you. You make coffee. You sit down. And then you just sit there. Maybe you open your phone. Maybe you watch something you've already seen. Maybe you just stare. And the hours go by. And by evening, you feel something heavier than tiredness. You feel shame because you wanted to do it. You really did. But your body wouldn't move. And you don't understand why. If this sounds familiar, stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you might be the most important thing you hear this year. Your nervous system has 3 basic responses to threat. You've probably heard of 2 of them: fight and flight. Fight. You face the danger. Flight. You run from it. But there's a third one. The one nobody talks about. Freeze. When the brain decides that fighting is impossible and running won't work, it does something radical. It shuts you down. Heart rate drops. Muscles go still. The mind goes foggy. You become, for all practical purposes, a statue. This is not weakness. This is ancient biology. It's the same response a mouse uses when a hawk grabs it. Play dead. Disappear. Survive. The problem is, your brain can't always tell the difference between a predator in the wild and a difficult email in your inbox. If your nervous system learned early in life that the world is unpredictable or threatening, it starts using the freeze response not just for emergencies, but for everything that feels hard. Here's where it gets really important. The freeze response isn't just something that happens to you in the moment. For many people, especially those who grew up in stressful, chaotic, or emotionally unsafe environments, freeze becomes a default setting. Think about it. If you grew up in a home where expressing yourself led to punishment, your nervous system learned, stay still, stay quiet, stay safe. If you grew up around a parent whose mood was unpredictable, your system learned, don't start anything, because you don't know how it will end. If you were a child who felt constantly overwhelmed and had no one to help you regulate, your brain wired itself to shut down under pressure, and now you're an adult. The threat is gone, but the wiring remains. So when you sit down to do something that matters, something with stakes, something where failure feels possible, your brain doesn't think, this is an opportunity. Your brain thinks this is a threat. And it does what it was trained to do. It freezes you. This is called a trauma response. Not trauma in the dramatic sense. Not necessarily one big event. But the quiet, chronic kind. The kind that comes from years of small moments where your nervous system never felt truly safe. Let me show you what this actually looks like in real life. The person who has 20 unread messages and can't bring themselves to open a single one. Not because they don't care about the people who wrote, but because each notification feels like a demand their body can't meet. The student who knows the deadline is tomorrow and spends the night doing absolutely nothing productive and hates themselves for it. The paralysis isn't laziness, it's freeze. The adult who has a dream, a real one, something they've wanted for years, and every time they get close to acting on it, something pulls them back. Procrastination, distraction, numbness, freeze. The person who can function perfectly well for others, at work, for their friends, for their family. But the moment it's time to do something for themselves, they go completely blank. Because doing something for yourself means you matter. And somewhere deep in the body, that belief still feels dangerous. Here's what I want you to really hear. You have spent years believing you are the problem. That if you just had more discipline, more willpower, more drive, you would be fine. But discipline cannot override a dysregulated nervous system. Willpower cannot compete with a survival response. You cannot think your way out of freeze. Because freeze doesn't live in your thoughts. It lives in your body. And this changes everything about how you approach it. You don't need to push harder. You need to feel safer. The path out of freeze is not force. It's regulation. Small, physical, gentle signals to your nervous system that the threat has passed. That it's okay to move. That you are safe. So what does that actually look like? First, name it. Out loud if you can. I am frozen right now. This is a trauma response. This is not who I am. Naming it activates the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, and begins to loosen the grip of the freeze state. Second, move your body. Anything. Stand up. Shake your hands. Walk to the window. Physical movement sends a signal. The danger is over. We survived. Third, make the task smaller than small. Not write the report. Not even write the introduction. Open the document. That's it. Just open it. The nervous system can handle that. And sometimes, that's enough to break the freeze. Fourth, stop punishing yourself for the freeze. Every time you call yourself lazy, you add more threat to the system. More shame means more shutdown. Compassion is not an excuse. Compassion is the way out.